She said he was nobody, so why did it feel like I was the one being replaced? The story opens in a moment that feels safe because it has always been safe before. Evening settles in slowly, the kind of quiet that wraps around the room instead of filling it. A single lamp casts a warm glow, softening the edges of everything it touches. Outside, distant traffic hums like background breath. Inside, there is comfort, shared space, shared history, shared silence. She sits close enough that the heat from her body is unmistakable. Her arm brushes against his when she shifts, not accidentally, not entirely on purpose either. The fabric of her sleeve is smooth beneath his fingertips when his hand rests on the couch between them. There's familiarity in that closeness, a rhythm they've fallen into over time. She knows exactly how near to sit, exactly how long to stay there. The conversation is light at first. Small observations, half-finished thoughts. Then, almost casually, the subject comes up. His name is mentioned once, quickly, like it isn't meant to linger in the air. She smiles and shakes her head, dismissing it before it can become anything. He's nobody, she says, her tone relaxed, confident, final. The words land softly, almost kindly. They are meant to reassure. For a moment, he lets them, but his attention drifts to what follows instead of what was said. Her eyes don't stay on his for long. They flick away just a second too early, settling on the floor, then the window, then back again. Her hand moves without reason, smoothing the fabric over her knee, then adjusting a ring that hasn't shifted. It's a small thing, something most people wouldn't notice, but he does. He always has. She reaches for him then, as if sensing the need to close the space. Her fingers curl gently around his forearm, warm and familiar. The touch is steady, grounding. He can feel the slight pressure of her thumb, the way her palm fits easily against him, like it's been there before and expects to be there again. That touch carries a message. You're here. You matter. And yet, something doesn't settle. He nods, accepting her words out loud. There's no reason not to. Her voice is calm, untroubled. Her posture relaxed. Everything about her says there is nothing to question. But inside, a faint dissonance hums. The reassurance feels practiced, delivered too smoothly, like a line repeated before. He notices how she exhales after saying it, a slow breath she doesn't realize she's holding. How her grip loosens just a little, as if the moment has passed and doesn't need guarding anymore. He tells himself it's nothing. That trust means not dissecting every pause, every glance. Still, as the evening drifts on and conversation returns to safer ground, the words echo quietly in his mind. He's nobody. The room remains warm. Her touch remains gentle. But beneath it all, the first crack has already formed, small enough to ignore, but deep enough to feel. At first, nothing changes in a way that's easy to name. The days move forward with the same routine, the same shared moments that once felt effortless. If someone were watching from the outside, they might say everything looks the same. But being inside it, he feels the difference immediately, like a room that's been rearranged in the dark. They still sit together, still talk, still laugh. Yet conversations no longer unfold in a straight line. A sentence begins, then trails off. She listens, nods, smiles, but her attention drifts just beyond him, as if something else is quietly waiting its turn. Where her phone lights up, she doesn't rush to answer it. She simply turns it face down, as though that alone proves it doesn't matter. The gesture is careful, almost deliberate. He tells himself it's normal. Everyone gets distracted. Everyone carries pieces of their life into the room. But there's a new pattern forming, and he can feel it in the pauses between words. Silences stretch a second longer than they used to, no longer comfortable, no longer shared. He feels them at first, small jokes, observations, memories, until he realizes he's doing all the reaching. Their physical closeness remains, but it's changed in subtle ways. She still sits beside him, close enough that their knees touch, but her body angles slightly away now. When he shifts closer, she doesn't pull back. She just doesn't lean in anymore. The warmth is there, familiar and real, yet it feels borrowed, like something he's holding for a moment before handing back. One evening, their shoulders brush as they sit together. The contact sends a quiet jolt through him, the kind that used to settle him instantly. This time, it only reminds him of what's missing. Her focus drifts elsewhere, eyes unfocused, mouth curved in a soft, distracted smile. He wonders what she's seeing that isn't in front of her. Laughter still exists between them, but it arrives differently now. She laughs more easily when she's talking about her day than when she's sharing it with him. Her stories feel edited, trimmed down to their safest parts. The deeper moments, hesitations, emotions, details stay just out of reach. He listens carefully, waiting for an opening that never quite comes. When he reaches for her hand, she lets him take it. Her fingers rest in his, light but passive. There's no squeeze back, no unconscious thumb tracing his skin the way it used to. The absence of that small gesture feels louder than any rejection. He becomes acutely aware of how much meaning lives in such tiny movements. He doesn't confront her. Not yet. He doesn't even admit it to himself fully. Instead, he watches. He notices how often her gaze drifts toward the door, how she checks the time without needing to know it. He feels the weight of being present while competing with something invisible. And for the first time, he understands the difference between being close to someone and being the one they're truly with. It happens so casually that he almost misses it. A name, dropped into the conversation without ceremony, woven into a sentence that's meant to sound ordinary. She says it the way someone mentions the weather, brief, unimportant, easily forgotten. At least, that's how it's supposed to feel. He nods, keeps his expression neutral. On the surface, there's no reason to react. After all, she already told him he was nobody. The reassurance should still hold. And yet, the moment the name leaves her lips, something in the room shifts. Her voice changes, not dramatically, not enough to call attention to it. It softens, lowers just slightly, as if she's stepping into a quieter space without realizing it. There's a pause afterward, a fraction of a second, where she seems to be listening to her own words, measuring them. He notices because he's learned her rhythms. He knows where her sentences usually land. Her eyes don't come back to him right away. They drift to the side, thoughtful, almost distant. When she finally looks at him again, there's a brightness there that hasn't been for him in a while. It's subtle, fleeting, but real. He feels it like a small, sharp ache in his chest. She notices his silence, then, and rushes to fill it. She laughs lightly, waves her hand as if brushing away the thought. She tells him, again, that it doesn't mean anything, that he's reading too much into it. The words are familiar now, delivered with practiced ease. She's trying to protect something, whether it's him or herself, he isn't sure. Later, when the conversation drifts elsewhere, she reaches for his hand. Her fingers slide into his, warm and smooth, fitting together as naturally as they always have. The contact is intimate, reassuring on the surface. But he's hyper-aware now. He notices how the touch happens after the explanation, not before. How it feels more intentional than instinctive. He holds her hand anyway. Her skin is warm against his, her pulse faint but steady beneath his thumb. He wants to believe that this is what matters, that what's right in front of him outweighs a name that shouldn't carry weight. But his mind keeps circling back to the contrast. When she talks about her day, certain details are vivid, colors, sounds, expressions. But when she mentions him, the story blurs. Edges soften, details disappear. It's as if she's careful not to give him shape. He begins to understand that the danger isn't the other person himself. It's the space he's occupying in her mind. A space that feels protected, private. A space the narrator can sense but not enter. As the evening winds down, she leans against him, resting her head lightly on his shoulder. The weight of her there used to feel grounding. Now it feels complicated. He can feel her breathing, slow and even, while his own thoughts race. The question forms quietly, without accusation or anger. If he truly didn't matter, why does his presence feel like something he's being compared against? And for the first time, the reassurance from before no longer echoes as comfort, but as doubt. The realization doesn't arrive all at once. It settles in slowly, the way night settles into a room without turning off the light. They're sitting together, closer than they've been in days. The couch dips slightly under their combined weight, their knees touching, her leg resting lightly against his. From the outside, it looks intimate, comfortable, even affectionate. Her head leans against his shoulder. The contact is familiar enough that his body reacts before his mind does, relaxing into the warmth of her. He can feel the softness of her hair brushing his neck, the gentle pressure where her temple rests against him. For a moment, he almost believes this is the closeness he's been missing. But something is wrong. Her body is there, undeniably real, yet her presence feels distant. He notices how still she is, how her breathing remains calm, and even untouched by the closeness between them. There's no subtle shift toward him, no unconscious nudge that says she belongs in this space. It feels like she's resting on him, not with him. The room is quiet except for the faint sound of something playing in the background, but neither of them is really watching it. He becomes acutely aware of the weight on his shoulder, not as comfort, but as confirmation. She's close enough to touch, yet unreachable in every way that matters. He speaks softly then, not accusing, not emotional, just honest. He tells her it feels like she's slipping away even when she's right beside him. His voice stays steady, though his chest tightens as the words leave him. He doesn't ask about anyone else. He doesn't demand reassurance. He simply names the distance. She lifts her head slowly, turning to face him. For a brief second, something flickers across her expression. Guilt, maybe, or recognition. Then it smooths out. She reaches up, her fingers brushing gently along his jaw, her thumb resting against his cheek. The touch is tender, practiced, almost instinctive. "You're overthinking," she says softly. Her hand stays there as she speaks, warm against his skin. She strokes his cheek once, slowly, the way someone comforts a worry rather than answers it. The gesture should soothe him. Instead, it lands heavy in his chest. It feels less like reassurance and more like dismissal wrapped in kindness. She leans back into him again, settling her head against his shoulder as if the conversation is over, as if the touch itself should be enough to quiet what he's feeling. He lets her, because pulling away would require admitting what this moment already tells him. He feels the steady rise and fall of her breathing. He notices how his own heartbeat has quickened, how the two rhythms don't match. The closeness highlights the absence rather than filling it. He understands now that intimacy without attention can feel lonelier than distance. In that stillness, it becomes clear he isn't sharing the moment with her. He's just the place she's resting while her thoughts are somewhere else. The truth doesn't arrive as a confession. There's no argument, no raised voices, no moment where everything spills out at once. Instead, it reveals itself quietly, through details that don't ask permission to be noticed. He starts seeing the changes before he understands them. The way she dresses, for instance. It's nothing dramatic, no sudden transformation, but there's intention now. A little more care in how she chooses a blouse, how she smooths the fabric before leaving the room. Jewelry she hasn't worn in a while finds its way back onto her skin. When he notices, she smiles and says nothing, as if the explanation should be obvious. One evening, she stands by the window while he sits behind her, the room dim except for the glow from outside. She holds her phone loosely in one hand. When the screen lights up, her face softens in a way he hasn't seen directed at him in weeks. It's not a smile meant to be shared. It's private, instinctive. He watches it fade just as quickly when she realizes she's not alone. She doesn't hide the phone. She doesn't need to. The damage is already done. When she turns back to him, she reaches out, brushing her fingers against his arm as if to ground herself. The touch is light, uncertain. He can feel the hesitation in it, like she's remembering something too late. For the first time, her hand doesn't linger. It slips away before the moment can settle. They sit together after that, closer out of habit than desire. Their knees touch, but the contact feels accidental now. When he shifts, she doesn't adjust to stay connected. He becomes aware of how often he's been the one leaning in, the one closing spaces she no longer notices. She talks about her day, but the details feel distant, incomplete. Certain parts are skipped entirely. When he asks gentle questions, she answers kindly, but briefly. There's a sense that he's listening to a version of her life that's been edited down, cleaned of anything that might require explanation. At one point, their hands brush on the couch cushion between them. Instinctively, he moves to take hers. She allows it, but her fingers remain loose in his grip, as if ready to slip free at any moment. There's no pressure back, no silent reassurance. Just permission. That's when it settles in. She hasn't chosen someone else openly, but she has chosen differently. The absence becomes physical. It sits in his chest, heavy and unmistakable. He realizes that even without words, even without admission, her body has already answered the question he's been avoiding. Her attention, her anticipation, her quiet excitement, all of it lives somewhere he no longer reaches. He doesn't call her out. He doesn't demand clarity. There's a strange calm in understanding something fully for the first time. He lets the silence stretch, feeling its weight instead of trying to fill it. In that stillness, he accepts what she hasn't said. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need to be spoken. Sometimes it's felt, in a way a hand pulls away, in the smiles not meant for you, and in the quiet understanding that something has already changed beyond repair. He doesn't ask right away. The question lives in him for days, pressing against his chest, waiting for the right moment, or maybe the courage to risk hearing the answer. He tells himself there's no urgency. That silence is easier than certainty. But the distance between them keeps widening, and eventually it becomes impossible to ignore. The moment comes quietly. They're alone, the room calm, nothing tense or dramatic in the air. That's what makes it harder. She's sitting across from him, legs tucked beneath her, hands folded together in her lap. She looks relaxed, unaware that everything is about to change. He speaks carefully, his voice low and steady. He doesn't mention names. He doesn't accuse. He tells her how it feels, how being close to her has started to feel lonely, how he misses the version of her that used to be fully present. The words come out slower than he expects, measured, honest. Each one feels like something he can't take back. She listens without interrupting. Her gaze drops to her hands, fingers tightening together slightly. He notices how her shoulders shift, how her breathing changes. The silence that follows his words is heavy but respectful. She doesn't rush to fill it this time. When she finally speaks, her voice is softer than before. Not dismissive, not defensive, just tired. She admits that what started as nothing didn't stay that way. That being seen in a different light felt unexpected, comforting. She doesn't frame it as love or betrayal. She describes it like a slow realization, something that grew quietly while she wasn't looking. The honesty in her voice makes it hurt more, not less. As she speaks, she reaches for him, closing the space between them. She rests her forehead against his chest, her hands lightly gripping the fabric of his shirt. The contact is intimate, vulnerable. He can feel the warmth of her there, the unevenness of her breathing. For a moment, instinct tells him to wrap his arms around her and hold on. But he doesn't. He understands then that comfort and closeness are no longer the same thing. That she's seeking reassurance from the one person she's already drifting away from. The realization is sharp, but strangely clarifying. He listens until she finishes. There's no anger in him, only a quiet sadness and something steadier beneath it. Acceptance. He knows now that what he's been feeling wasn't imagined. It had a name, even if she didn't say it outright. When she lifts her head to look at him, her eyes search his face, waiting for a reaction. He meets her gaze calmly. There's no accusation in his expression, no bitterness, just understanding. And in that moment, he realizes the question he feared didn't break him. It freed him, because knowing the truth, however painful, feels better than holding on to a closeness that no longer belongs to him. The room is quiet, soft shadows stretching across the walls. The day has ended, but the weight of everything that happened lingers. He sits beside her one last time, aware that this closeness is different from all the others. It is gentle, deliberate, a quiet acknowledgement of what was shared and what cannot continue. She reaches for him instinctively, and he allows it. Her fingers slide into his, the warmth still familiar, though tinged with the bittersweet reality of goodbye. She doesn't speak at first. She lets the silence hang between them, as if it can carry what words cannot. The weight of her presence presses against him in a way that is both comforting and painful. He can feel the steady rhythm of her pulse beneath her fingertips, a reminder of the life they once shared in small, unspoken ways. Finally, she leans in, resting her cheek against his chest. He feels the softness of her hair brushing against his skin, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. Her body is close, yet it no longer belongs fully to him. He can sense the hesitation in her posture, the tiny distance in her weight that separates them even in this final embrace. It is a closeness tinged with loss, a touch meant to honor what they had, not to claim it again. He wraps his arms around her lightly, holding her with care, but without the desperation that once drove him to cling. Every gesture is measured, conscious, as if to commit the memory of this moment to himself before he lets it go. Her breathing mingles with his, uneven at first, then settling into quiet steadiness. He listens to it, memorizing it, knowing that soon this rhythm will be something he carries inside, rather than feeling it directly against his own body. When she lifts her head, their eyes meet. There is understanding there, a quiet acknowledgement of love that could not remain, of desire that was not enough to bridge the distance. She smiles softly, almost apologetically, and he returns it, a small gesture of gratitude for the honesty, the tenderness, the moments they shared. No words are necessary. Their eyes carry the weight of everything unspoken. He stands first, letting go of her hand slowly, deliberately. She doesn't reach to stop him. She simply watches, understanding that this is right. There is no bitterness, no accusation, only a shared awareness that some bonds are meant to be cherished, not clung to. As he walks toward the door, each step is measured, a rhythm of release. He feels the ache in his chest, but beneath it is a sense of dignity, of growth, of having loved fully and honestly. Before leaving completely, he pauses at the threshold, glancing back. She is still standing there, a figure both comforting and distant, the warmth of her presence lingering in the room even as he moves away. Their eyes meet one last time, a silent exchange of gratitude, sadness, and quiet closure. He steps out into the world beyond the door, carrying with him the memories, the touches, the laughter, and even the heartbreak. Each step forward is heavier than before, yet freer. Freer because he gave everything sincerely, and freer because he can finally release what was never fully his to keep. The pain remains, but it is softer now, tempered by understanding. He has walked away not empty-handed, but full of what he offered and what he learned: love, honesty, and the courage to let go. The story ends not with a shout or a confrontation, but with a quiet, human truth. Sometimes, the deepest love is the one that leaves you with both the ache of loss and the warmth of having loved without compromise.